All right, ladies and gentlemen, the NFL honors just concluded. I just woke up from my nap. Welcome back to another episode of Draft Dynamite. We got 2 more prospects to scout and evaluate for you guys live on air. My name's Cole Topham alongside Theo Ash and Daniel Alameda. And guys, thoughts on these NFL honors?
I thought Justin was robbed of offensive player of the year or offensive rookie of the year. Justin.
I know
Jefferson.
you were a big Justin guy. I've seen your content.
Justin won. And I thought that was one. Watt and Donald could have gone either way. I thought they got them mostly right, though. It's weird that Josh Allen got more MVP votes than Mahomes. That was really weird. But we're fighting over second and third place there. But for the most part, I thought they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, no, I agree. The biggest one I'm happy about is Alex Smith winning comeback player of the year. I wasn't quite sure if they were going to give it to him. I'm glad they did because rightfully he deserved it. And yeah, I was on the same train as you. Justin Jefferson, I know he's not a quarterback, but in my opinion, he had a better year than Justin Herbert. But the reason is obviously the quarterback bias. They're going to pick a quarterback. He's the face of their team. That's why they did it. I don't agree with it, but yeah, that's my 2 cents. And Josh Allen, same thing. I think it's pretty much it's the quarterback bias. It's what type of season Josh Allen had because he didn't have that last year. And Patrick Mahomes has had this all the past 2 years. He's the consistent face of this league. So people want something new. It's a narrative-driven league, and I think that's probably why.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really believe it. Justin Jefferson, he was breaking records that, were almost as old as I am, right? Well, the records that were on Justin Herbert's resume have all been set in the last, few years. Certainly nothing like, almost 20 years like Justin Jefferson. But I think you said it right, Alex Smith. Everyone's rooting for him, and there was one voter that decided that almost dying because of their leg infection, right, wasn't good enough to win comeback player of the year. So I don't know what you guys thought about that, but I thought that was kind of ridiculous. They voted for Ben Roethlisberger instead. Come on now. Did
Definitely
you have eyes?
Definitely Steelers fan.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really comprehend that. But the Hall of Fame class was also inducted as well. Calvin Johnson made it in alongside Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson. But on my timeline, I saw people genuinely believe that Calvin Johnson was not worthy of the Hall of Fame. And in my opinion, that's just ridiculous.
I remember seeing that as soon as he retired, the speculation that he retired
too soon.
Too soon. He doesn't have the numbers to be in the Hall of Fame all time. I remember that as soon as he retired, that was kind of a narrative. And then over these past couple of years, the narrative has kind of changed to, is Calvin Johnson top 3 all time? I would say that, yeah, he obviously deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know who would quite question that, but yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I don't know who would be questioning that. I mean, I'm pretty sure he had a 4-year stretch of, it was 1,400, 1,600, 1,400, then he had 1,900 yards. He's arguably, in my opinion, top 3 most dominant receivers of all time. The man was a physical specimen. He was an absolute monster. And yes, he did end his career early, but I can't even fathom who would even disagree with that.
Yeah. I think you make your Hall of Fame case in your prime, and then stuff that happens kind of after your prime, like Gore, rushing for 600 yards for a bunch of years out of your prime. That's all cool and all, but your prime is where you make your Hall of Fame case in my eyes, and Calvin Johnson obviously was playing at that level in his prime. So yeah, this should be and it was for most of the voters apparently a no-brainer, but yeah.
No, this was a Lions fan that was tweeting this. He said that the Lions basically force-fed Calvin the ball, and that a lot of his production just came off being, the big fish in the small pond of receiving targets.
I entirely disagree with some of that. I do think that his season where he had almost 2,000 yards is gets a little bit overrated because of the amount of targets that he had, but it's like he's still a Hall of Famer. Like, I don't know. But I do think that there's a little bit of truth to Calvin was force fed a lot of his production, but it's not to the degree where I would say like he shouldn't be there.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, if you have a resume of, catching passes in triple coverage, then I think it's a lot more than just
the reason there's a reason why they force fed him.
Right, exactly. I mean, I kind of jumped the gun on this too, but Theo, when we recorded our little duo episode last week, you said that Matthew Stafford would be traded by the next time we record, and that did happen. So I just wanted to know your thoughts on that. Are you taking a victory lap? And what do you think of the trade? Does it benefit both sides?
I mean, I didn't think he'd get traded to the Rams, so I can't take too much of a victory lap. But it does benefit both sides. I think the Lions are a contender to be the worst team in the league next year. Goff sucks, but it's better to be the worst team in the league than be like the 7th worst team in the league and not have the 2 or 3 extra draft picks, whatever it was. So I do like the move for them. And for the Rams, I mean, you've got Ramsey, you've got Donald, you've got Whitworth, I think, for another year. You've got Woods, and like you've got a good team. And if you want to go out and upgrade at the quarterback position, and you don't think 3 late round picks over the next 3 years is going to bring you there, I don't blame them at all for going out and getting Stafford. Yes, they gave up a lot to do it, but I mean, if they can win the Super Bowl, and I don't think that they would win the Super Bowl with Goff, I don't think that would happen. So to extend you can't really put a price on putting on a Super Bowl window, and it feels a lot. The Stafford trade feels a lot to me like Brady joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's a very similar kind of caliber and of quarterback and team that he's going to. So I like the move for both sides.
Yeah, I think the Rams, basically the past 2 to 3 years, they've backed themselves in this corner of no return, right? They put themselves in, they're getting Ramsey, you signed Donald for a big extension. You got all these guys who are, like you said, Whitworth's at the end of his career. You're basically saying, okay, we're going to go all in for a Super Bowl. Jared Goff's not your guy, so there's only one option, upgrade the quarterback position. And besides Watson, Matthew Stafford's the best option for that. So while, yes, you did give up a lot of first-round picks, you did give up a lot of future assets, in the big scheme of things, a Super Bowl victory or a Super Bowl appearance is worth way more than what they gave up. And for the Lions, I like it, right? Not expecting anything special this year. It kind of, I'm not going to say questions their direction, because I'm not sure if they want to roll with Jared Goff, because if they want to roll with Jared Goff, what happens if they just go out and select Devontae Smith, right? I mean, you're losing Galladay, you're losing Jones. What happens if they select the receiver and say, hey, we want to compete this year? Obviously, that's not going to happen. Their smart move, at least in my opinion, would be you have to draft a quarterback. You have to build up a quarterback to be your franchise guy. So I like it. I like the move for both sides. Both sides are trending in opposite directions, and it achieves what both sides really want to do.
I think the biggest thing for me is how many much more windows Stafford gives this offense to operate, because I felt like just watching the Rams, it was very, very, very contingent on what Goff could do with the ball in his hands. And at times I felt like he needed to be told exactly where he needed to put the ball. So I think acquiring Stafford means that the Rams can be a lot more creative on offense. Stafford is a lot more mobile than Goff, which is really going to open up the offense as well, because Goff couldn't really move in the pocket or do any of the rollouts or anything like that, provide a threat in that aspect. He can extend plays with his legs, and just when the pocket collapses, keep it alive, something Goff could not do. And then most of all, he's a clutch artist. I felt like Jared Goff would crack under pressure a lot. And, Stafford, he actually has more fourth quarter comebacks than Matt Ryan. And, they call him Matt Ryan, Matty Ice, for a reason. But Stafford might even be better than him in the fourth quarter. So I think those 3 reasons are why I think Stafford is the best fit for the Rams.
Yeah, and I mean, he has more fourth quarter comebacks than Aaron Rodgers. Like I saw that stat like before Aaron Rodgers lost in the playoffs last week or 2 weeks ago. And the biggest thing is they won a playoff game this year. They won a playoff game with Jared Goff and this roster. If they can do that with him and you acquire Matt Stafford, I think right now they're the third best team in the NFC. Third or second.
Third best team in the NFC. Not bad, not bad.
I think they might be the best. I think they might be the best right now.
But I would still put the Bucks. I mean, I would still put the Bucks above them. Yeah, I'm more confident in the Bucks right now. I mean, we got to see what happens this offseason, who they re-sign. If they lose, obviously Tom Brady will come back hungrier. If they win, I don't know how hungry he'll be, but
yeah, they got to retain Godwin. That's for sure.
Not necessarily. I don't know if you guys know, I'm a huge Tyler Johnson guy. Scotty Miller. I've been saying, okay, you have Mike Evans on one side. Maybe Antonio Brown. I don't see Antonio Brown signing with another team. You keep Antonio Brown, let Chris Godwin walk. You got Tyler Johnson, you got Scotty Miller. I think that's a fine receiving trio, or Clark, or whatever, however you say that. I like that group. I really like that group. I don't know. I'm a huge Tyler Johnson fan.
Now that you say that, I wouldn't have thought of that, but yeah, I can see. Tyler Johnson's from Minnesota, so I have to say good things about him.
Yeah, I mean, or they just let Godwin walk and turn to the draft for a wide receiver. But I guess we can transition into our first, prospect to scout today. Kadarius Toney, probably the most fun tape to watch so far out of any prospect in this draft. He's super electric, probably one of the most exciting players to watch in college football. He's been called the human joystick, a cheat code. But I mean, I felt like I was on crack, watching his tape. It seemed like it was such a fun experience. Daniel, would you say your experience was the same?
Oh my God, I would say it's completely the same. And I've been one of his biggest supporters since I watched his film in the summer, right? I mean, we'll get to his question marks and his weaknesses, but when I evaluate receivers, what I love to do, first off, I look at guys who succeed in the NFL, and I go back and look at the college tape. One of the biggest consistencies, one of the biggest trends is they make those extra plays. They make those plays that make you go, wow. Kadarius Toney had about 1,000 of those. He's not just an elusive receiver. He's also a guy, he's 200 pounds. He's built somewhat like a running back. He can take those hits. So last year's film showed me a lot of put the ball in his hands and he will have major success. This year, he showed me more of a complete receiver, more of a downfield receiving threat. And that's one thing I really wanted to see, something I still want to see. But man, like a fun tape, like you said, literally I'm watching, I'm literally like I'm on crack.
Yeah, I mean, just watching Toney, he would get the ball in his hands and it just seemed like he would never go down when the first man hit him. Either he'd make a miss or he'd just bounce right off, his yards after the catch, yards after contact, his contact balance was just phenomenal. He just hardly ever went down when that first guy hit him. And I mean, is that a desirable trait in a wide receiver prospect? And do you think that is going to push him up draft boards, or do you think his lack of real role in the offense until his senior year is going to hold him back?
Oh yeah, I see me or Theo.
Both.
I've got an answer, and you look at what Kyle Shanahan's doing picking Ayuk in the first round, and you look at what he's doing picking Deebo Samuel in the first round. Two guys where maybe 5 years ago they wouldn't have been prospects selected as high as they were. And as Shanahan's, and they use them not so much as downfield threats, or as much as they do just using them as extensions of the running game and getting them the ball on these drag routes, 7 to 10 yards down the line, and like letting them make plays after the catch. And Shanahan's influence, now you've got Mike LaFleur in New York. I'm trying to think of other Shanahan, but like that McVay Shanahan kind of like influence is spreading all over the league, and the kind of receiver that Toney is fits very, very well in that kind of scheme. So I definitely think that more than ever, that kind of trait is more desirable even than a big body possession guy. Is a guy who you can, hit on these crossing routes off play action and in these, Shanahan style offenses. So any team like the Jets, I know they have 2 first-round picks, and that second one, I think if they want a weapon, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Mike LaFleur bring in Kadarius Toney to be his Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is the thing that really fascinates me about Toney, and the reason why I'm so confident that he should go in the first round is he's not just an elusive receiver, right? He's not just some guy, a smaller slot receiver like a Tutu Atwell, one guy I really don't like because smaller frame, he can make guys miss, he's fast, but Toney can do it all. He makes guys miss, whether it's running straight through you or his elusiveness. At the Senior Bowl, like his route running was another thing. He's not just going to be a guy you can use in jet sweeps, not just going to be a guy that you can use in the screen game. I truly believe, I know he's an older receiver. I think he's around 22, 23. I still think he can develop into a downfield receiving threat. Maybe not like a Tyreek Hill, but I still think intermediate routes like a Deebo Samuel, as you were talking about, I'm just confident in his ability to make plays with the ball in his hands. I'm going to take that in the first round.
I agree. I would take him in the first round too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that first round caliber is really a touchy subject for a lot of people because in the eyes of many of the members of the community that prioritize analytics over tape, Toney is an absolutely terrible wide receiver prospect. They want to stay away from Toney as far as possible, just because of his relatively lack of involvement as a major focal point of the offense until now. And even then, he's dealt with some injuries and all that. But I was just wondering. So it sounds like you guys would take him surefire in the first round, no questions asked. That isn't too high for you in this wide receiver class, Theo.
Yeah, no. And one other thing is, I think offense. I'd rather build up my offense than my defense, like to prioritize, because on offense, you also see a bunch of motion going on. You think of like Devontae Adams versus Ramsey in that Rams game where he motioned, one side of the line, the other side of the line, and Ramsey never had a shot. And you can motion guys so they're moving 20 miles an hour at the time of the snap, and the defense is moving 0 miles an hour. And the offense is going to have an advantage. And that is a great, great way to create space. And that's another thing that McVay and Shanahan do so well. And so that's kind of an analytical, like all the analytics people love motion, and they love Shanahan and McVay's offense and what they do for wide receivers. And so I do think that, yeah, there's probably an analytical argument against Toney, but I think that analytics would really love a guy who can create after the catch like that, because they know how important motion is and how easy it is to get wide receivers in favorable matchups and get them into space. And you want a guy who can create after that, because that's the highest percent. Those are layups, those little motion plays with the guy in space, easy 6, 7, 8 yards every time.
Yeah, and it's really like there's 2 different types of receivers. You can go for the boundary receiver, a guy who has a skill set like a DeAndre Hopkins or like a Julio Jones, or you can get a guy that you can create with. Toney, you can move him all around the formation. And the analytics people, like we were talking about, I saw what they were saying. They're saying, oh, they're just throwing screens to him. They're just moving him around. In the NFL, if you have an offensive coordinator like a Kyle Shanahan, if you have an offensive coordinator with a bright mind, they're going to be able to put them all over the formation. And I want somebody that can create plays. I want a playmaker. And Toney's playmaking ability, there is no way he has no success in the NFL. He will succeed sheerly based off of his playmaking ability.
Yeah, totally agree. And I mean, why do they hate screens and stuff like that? Because I swear to God, the 2 players we've mentioned, Deebo Samuel and Tyreek Hill, their offenses, they run reverse sweeps and screens at least 3 times a game. And Toney can definitely excel in that role. Given he's a much more polished wide receiver than just a gadget player that only works on those. But it's not like those plays are going away, and it's not like we're gonna ignore that those are strengths of his, right? But other weaknesses of Toney, his route tree, we've talked about it, wasn't expanded until his senior year. Adjusting to the catch, specifically low thrown passes, that needs work. And then he held a pretty simple role in the offense and was pretty limited by Kyle Trask in driving the football. So maybe that played a role into it. And then he also has a history of injuries. He had a shoulder issue that caused him to miss 6 games in 2019, and he played through an ankle injury in 2020. A little thing I noticed is I feel like his own speed can trip him up sometimes. Like he starts to get ahead of himself, and he'll like fall down because he's just trying to outmaneuver the defense so fast that his own body can't keep up with him. But that's just a little something I noticed. Did we cover all the weaknesses, guys?
I think so.
Yeah, I think like obviously it's a little bit concerning because he didn't have 1,000-yard receiving season, or he didn't have full repertoire in his route running. But like I said, I think his game-changing ability, that's what I look for in players. I want somebody that's going to make something happen, make something different. I don't want just somebody who succeeds at the college level. I want somebody who has the translatable traits, the creativity in the offense. And yes, he does trip himself up sometimes, but when you look at him, you can just envision him in an offense making plays happen against NFL cornerbacks.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you want to talk about like translatable traits. If we're going to go in our next prospect, Caleb Farley, he is basically like a blueprint for a lockdown cornerback, given he does have less experience compared to, some of the rest of the people in the class, some of the rest of the corners that we've seen come out of the draft and excel. But, man, Caleb Farley, he looks like the next big thing at the cornerback position if his game translates from college into the NFL. Theo, what stood out about Farley to you?
Farley looks like Farley kind of looks like he's winging it. Like he is a converted wide receiver with amazing trait, amazing.
He was
like,
a quarterback
frame.
too before that.
Was he? I just knew.
Yeah, he was a quarterback in high school, was recruited as a wide receiver, and then switched to cornerback for his sophomore year.
Yeah, and you can tell that he's kind of new to the cornerback position because he's out there running, like his technique is off, and he'll take false steps, and on double moves he'll just not like be patient with it. He'll like bite on the double move, but he still has the recovery speed to, even when he bites on like a double move, he can go get it. Like he's not burned when he gets burned.
Yeah, that was insane to me right there. The recovery speed is just like he'll be late flipping his hips, and it'll just be right there with the right wide receiver the entire way.
So if a lot of corner, like more so I think than other positions, corner relies on coaching, and corner relies on their own mentality and their own willpower. But if I was a team, I don't know if I would take someone like that in the top 10 unless I was really, really confident in my coaching staff and they had a long history of developing those kinds of guys. But yeah, no, he's definitely someone who could be, a top 5 corner in the next couple of years here. But because he's also someone that could face these NFL players, and that lack of technique could really, really hurt him. It all kind of depends on how confident you are in your defensive backs coaching.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit. That was the thing I liked about him most, was his technique. His biggest weakness in my eyes was really like his eyes. Like we said, he bite on double moves. His tackling, like he wouldn't really have the right direction. You can tell he's new to the position. But as far as cornerback technique goes, I'll literally give you guys like a little demonstration here real quick. Like
live demo. Let's go.
Live demonstration. Okay, I never played football, but my family plays football, and cornerbacks coaches in my family. So like I saw like a lot of off man coverage. Hips are always squared. He's low. He's looking. He's like almost like a wolf hunting. That's how I view him. He's like here, and he would attack. And that's another thing. Like he'd attack on a double move, and the guy would go right past him. But I saw his technique. Him and Surtain are the a tier above everyone else as far as technique goes. But besides that, like there's no real weakness, right? I think if you get him with coaching, if you get him with the right coaching staff, I think he can thrive. And one final thing I want to touch on, like Jeff Okudah last year, we thought he was a surefire guy, or at least I did. And I think he still is. He just needs the right coaching. So that's why it really depends on what situation he lands in.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a guy that's quote unquote new to the position, I think Farley is very, very refined way more refined than a converted wide receiver, to cornerback than we think he'd be at this stage. But here he is. He's challenging, for a top 10 spot in the NFL draft. And I like what you said about his stance too. That was what I really liked. He has like his hands collapsed together in front of him. He's very, very mechanical in the way he threw his back pedal and then just snaps immediately to the ball out of it when he needs to. I think the biggest thing I liked about Farley though is he's always looking for the ball. We talked about the acceleration. The quarterback will throw the ball. He'll catch up to the receiver, and like right at the point of the catch, he's trying to get his hand in there and tear that ball away at all costs. And it's something that he prioritizes a lot and very often in coverage to the point where it's saved a couple of touchdowns and first downs because of it. And so that's what I really like is a cornerback that has that natural feel of the game. And prioritizes disrupting the catch when he knows he's possibly beat.
For sure. Yeah, and that's where the converted wide receiver skill set comes in, right? Like it does not get much higher of a ceiling than someone with a converted wide receiver who has ball skills, obviously. Not great ball skills, otherwise he probably wouldn't have been a converted wide receiver. But still pretty good ball skills. And then combining that with just being a hyper athlete, the ceiling doesn't get much higher. And Surtain, when you look at him versus Surtain, because that's the big debate, and you can throw Horn in there too. Surtain, you can't. Some people would say that you could throw Horn in there.
Yeah, I want to talk about Horn on another show. I really like. I know Cole. Me and Cole got a little jokes today on Twitter. Yeah,
that's true.
Horn's another case, but continue.
Like Surtain they're kind of opposites in ways to me, because Surtain is incredibly refined and he's not going to bite on these double moves, and he is very, very pro ready. But the question is, does he have the long speed? Does he have the athleticism? Whereas Farley is someone who has all the athleticism, but is just way less refined. And it's like, what do you value more? Do you value the top ends, or the kind of the ceiling or the floor is kind of what this comes down to. And again, it kind of depends on a team by team basis. I prefer Surtain a little bit to Farley, but I definitely acknowledge that Farley could prove me very wrong in that regard.
Yeah, one of the biggest things I like to talk about in scouting is translatable traits. And Theo, you literally said it. I love cornerbacks that were receivers. And that's how you can tell. It's similar, like I love receivers that were former basketball players. It's the same exact concept. You want guys that are able to go up and get the ball, guys who are able to really be competitive at the catch point. And that's something that Caleb Farley has. That's something that whether or not he's very inexperienced, that will always stay with him. And I think that's going to make him competitive against the Julio Joneses of the league, the DeAndre Hopkins of the league. That's something that will always put him in the conversation. And he's 6'2". He's got the frame. He's got everything there. But it's really what situation does he land in?
Yeah.
He's a really physical cornerback too. I felt like he was pretty disciplined. Go ahead, Theo. What were you going to say?
Oh, you should go, and then I'll kind of ask my question.
Oh, I mean, I was going to transition into one of the questions that I had prepared to ask you guys about.
I was just going to ask where, like, what kind of range do you see him going in?
You saying Farley?
Yeah.
I think Farley's going to be the 8 to 12, 8 to 14 range. Like the Broncos, I think if Parsons isn't there, I think they can take a chance on him. He's got a lot of potential, and I think
feel like the Broncos are the team that might end up with him more so than Farley. It would not surprise me if it goes Farley to the Broncos and then Surtain to Dallas, because they run so much cover 3, which is what Bama does. I feel.
Yeah, and be able to pair him with Trayvon Diggs over there. I don't know, Surtain. I'm iffy with him, right? I think the floor is there. The floor is there. My biggest question a lot of times, like on crossing routes, he wouldn't really stick with the receiver. He'd kind of just drift away on deep routes. Like I'm not really a big stickler about long speed, but it showed up in his film. I don't know. I'm just taking Farley's ceiling over Surtain's floor.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, I'm about to answer my own question here, but like I think Farley, his decision to sit out 2020, obviously he's got his health as a priority. That's first on his mind. But I mean, those are games that we could have used to help answer the questions about the wonders of his sophomore year, right? Because we didn't get to see him this year, and we're basically judging his film off those first 2 years when he was basically new to the position. So every game helps, right? But I feel like that's gonna scare away a few teams because they'd rather take a more polished corner like Patrick Surtain, right? Or maybe not polished, but a more experienced corner that has played the position and been in that position for multiple years. And so that's why they'd feel more comfortable taking Surtain over Farley.
Yeah, I see why Farley.
You guys see that happening?
I see why Farley sat out because he allowed something crazy like a 17 passer rating, like when he was targeted. It was something he wasn't going to surpass what he did in 2019. I mean, you can improve as a player and not surpass his charting numbers in 2019. So I do understand that him sitting out in that regard because he's just simply not going to have a better season than that. Maybe it's at the same level, but it's not better. I feel like the opt-outs are not going to be a huge deal, but I don't know. I just feel like because the players who opted out are the best ones, so like I don't feel like it's going to be a massive deal to teams.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think like one of the biggest like examples of this was like Nico Collins. Nico Collins opted out of the year at the Senior Bowl, looked just as he did 2 years ago or a year ago. I think the major guys who opted out, like the Rousseaus of the world, the Caleb Farleys, I don't think teams are going to be as scared, but at the same time, they might be more confident in being like, okay, I saw this guy. I guaranteed this guy because I saw his film in 2020. I didn't see your film. So I'm not really sure about like the later round guys, but I don't really think Farley will be that impacted, to be honest.
Yeah, and because of that experience, having converted from wide receiver to cornerback, do you guys think that a lockdown role in his first year is kind of too much to ask, or maybe not lockdown, but consistent going up against the NFL's best? Do you think Farley would be able to handle that against stiffer competition, or do you think he needs a few games or a season to really adjust to the NFL game speed?
I feel like it's a lot to ask anyone to lock in their first year. I mean, especially if he goes to Denver and is going up against Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill. I guess Vegas doesn't have anyone that's like too crazy good, but like rookies corner is such a hard position to play. I don't think it's reasonable to expect even the top guys to just step in and just be these lockdown guys. Obviously you don't want him to be burnt toast out there, but like I wouldn't if he's not locked down in his rookie season, I'm not too concerned about it.
Yeah. Jeff Okudah, before this show, I did a little bit of research. He was bad this year. Like I watched a couple of their games. He was bad this year. So but still out of this entire class, A.J. Terrell played well. C.J. Henderson played well. No one really was a lockdown corner, but I still think they all have potential. And I think with this class, it's going to be the same. Asante Samuel Jr. is a guy I really like. I'm not expecting him to be great this year. Caleb Farley's a guy I really like. I don't want him to be great. I want him to show flashes. I don't really care if he's great. So I wouldn't say lockdown, but I want to see potential. I want to see his ball skills translate to the next level.
I can't remember the last rookie corner that just came in and was just absolutely locked. Like
maybe Ramsey.
Yeah, Ramsey was pretty good, but I think it was his second year where he really made the jump. But I could be wrong.
But no, like you're right on the spot. Like receivers can come out and be dominant like that, and quarterbacks we're starting to see them translate to that. Like I mean, Justin Herbert, look at the year he had. But cornerbacks, I don't know. It seems like a very difficult transition. So I'm gonna be fine with seeing his flashes this season.
I mean, I think we're all in agreement there that maybe it's going to take a season for cornerbacks to really adjust to NFL game speed and unlock the intricacies of the position at the next level. But those are some productive discussions on two of some of the best or most exciting prospects in the draft. Let us know what you guys think of them. Where can we follow you guys on Twitter, Theo?
You can follow me on Twitter at Theo Ash1, and you can follow me on TikTok doing player breakdowns at, for now, 16 game sample size. This is the last game of a 16 game season, so I'll probably have to change that.
Name is pending review. We talked about this last time too.
Big news.
I know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think I'll just rename it like Theo Ash. I feel like half the people kind of glaze over what my name actually is anyway. But you can find me on TikTok at 16 game sample size. But again, it's not 16 games anymore, so I'll probably have to change it.
You can follow me on Twitter at Daniel Alameda 11. I don't necessarily have the following of these two guys over here. They're big shots, but I mean, I'm learning from them, so it's been awesome doing this.
Hey man, that's all that matters. Okay, you can follow me at Ham Analysis on all social media platforms. Guys, that was a great discussion, and we'll be back next week with 2 more prospects to break down for you. Hopefully, some more trades will get cooking. Maybe we'll see a Carson Wentz trade by the time we record.
By the next time we record, Carson Wentz will be a Chicago Bear.
Okay, there you go. Another prediction from Theo. I saw the tweets this morning, Theo. There's some great stuff there. You really had Chicago rolling.
I hope they have the guts to pull it off. That would, as a Packer fan, them trading multiple firsts for Wentz would really make my day.
All right, we will see you guys next time. Hopefully opening our episode with that trade news. But peace out, you guys.
Adios.